Hey guys, Waldock Studios here, and today we're gonna kind of take a step back, go back to the multiplayer template that I've put together, the tutorial on the enhanced input system, and how to set up. I think I titled it like 5.1 and 5.2 multiplayer, and then I followed that video up with another one showing that the skip player one parameter for the engine properties had been fixed. So I'll just kind of give you a really fast, brief overview of this project. Um, so we have two characters. One's a third person, one's a child of the third person. So it's using inheritance. The only thing on the child that's been changed is it uses a red material instance. The parent uses like a blue material. And usually it's in split screen. So we'll go to the project settings and I can show you where you can first look at the skip. So you can basically have one gamepad control player 2, and the controller will play the keyboard will control player 1. And then for split screen, we just turn that off. We say don't use split screen. So right now, with that done, if you hit play, you'll get two characters, but the camera controls are going to update the forward vector because it assumes it has its own camera. And then if we go into here, you can see I've removed the cameras in the boom arm, so there is no camera. And the reason I've done this is because Patreon members, tutorial watchers, etc., have asked, well, how would I make them share a camera from scratch if we were to do this from scratch? So again, the game mode has this logic is familiar to you guys. I've posted a share on my previous tutorial. I'll leave it up here so you can like pause the video and kind of look it over. But again, for Patreon members, this is available on my Patreon. The template is available there for you to download. This essentially handles anybody who's not player 1. This handles player 1 and appropriately assigns the context for input to them, and then spawns a class. And then this is where I'm handling the child. So for player 2, I'm using the child class. For player 1, I'm using the normal class. So that's how we're getting red and blue. So yeah, one of the questions that was asked is, how do we handle a separate camera? So we would actually need to create an actor class, and you would just name that BP camera manager. So this is just a base actor. This is what I would say we could use to throw into the scene, and this would act as the camera manager for both of these characters. So if we drug this out, and we need I guess there's a couple of things here. We need both of these guys to be as close to the center of the scene as possible, at least for this part, while I'm going over this, because the calculation we're going to be running on the camera assumes the camera is going to have a starting position between the two players, because we're just going to initially control the boom arm's zoom position. So if I hit play right now, you can see we're kind of in between the two, and if I start moving away from this guy, it's going to zoom that camera out. So we'll go over how to do this really quickly. And again, I've done this in advance to kind of help with time. So on begin play in the camera manager, you're going to delay a frame, and this is kind of janky, but the reason for this is the player controller isn't going to necessarily exist yet on begin play, so it's not going to be valid. But we're going to delay a frame, wait for validity, and then we're going to set the view target with blend, and we're going to use self on the player controller, because that's what set view target with blend expects, is a player controller object and then an actor to set the view target to. Now, previously I was trying to do something that is more like checking is valid here. Let me do this differently. I was checking. This is what I usually do. Okay, so I'll just explain that to you. I'll check if it's valid, and if it's not valid, then I'll loop back around into a delay node, and then I'll come out of the end of the delay node back into the validity check, and then I'll delay this by some value so that, like, am I valid? No, I'm not. Okay, delay for a second, check again. Am I valid? No, I'm not. And it loops that until the controller is valid, then it'll do this function. That way there's not a chance to ever fail. Like, if I just feed into a delay node and I delayed and I go to this and I fail, then that's bad. But when I was testing this, yeah, for whatever reason, does not work. That logic doesn't work. So, I don't know if this is a bug, but usually, let's do this. We'll do this. Not valid. So if we don't delay, we hit this valid node and then come to the output. Let's see what it does. We're ticking. Let's not tick. Let's just set another print. And sorry to be eating up time debugging this while you guys are here, but I'm OCD, and when things don't make sense, it confuses me as well as you. And we'll clear this log out just to, yeah. So it says it's valid literally on begin play, which, I mean, if you understand order of operations, like, that could be true in PIE, but that might not be true during gameplay. Controllers may not be valid the moment the level starts. Yeah. So, I mean, it's always safer to do a validity check. I just find this really, really, really weird. So weird. This whole thing is making me a bit uncomfortable. Just the chance of this not firing correctly, but for the sake, all right, so there's a couple of things we could do. We could create an event dispatcher, right? And we can listen to that dispatcher. So we can say, hey, on get the game mode, and on match start, we can call this thing. So let's do that. Let's say set up camera. And we're gonna call this. So after we get done doing everything and we spawn, we'll call setup camera. That's all we need to do. And then over here on event begin play, let's do this a little differently. We'll get the game mode. And then we will cast it to our third person game mode. And we will bind to set up camera. So on begin play, regardless of what's happening here, we're gonna say, look, I'm gonna bind to this event so I can listen to it fire. That way I know when everything else is ready and I won't have to take any chances. So at this point, we're gonna create an event. And we'll just use matching function. Oh no, that is not what I wanted to do. Sorry. We'll delete this. Matching event. There we go. And this is going to be right. I drove the whole thing. Why? We'll rename this to init. Right. And if we compile, we should be green. So we listen to it, it fires, we init, we're all good. Now, no matter what, we know that the player controller is going to be here. We don't even have to do a validity check anymore. It's just going to be ready at this point. So if we hit play, we're good to go, right? Boom, boom, boom. Script message was called, blah, 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 blah. Warning. I don't know. Attempted to access from an array. Both of these guys should be, yeah, all actors, set all actors, enable tick. Let's clear this log out, shall we? Why is it attempted to access index 1 from array? Why is that a warning? We did attempt to do it, and we are. We've spawned it, possessed it. Oh. We're player 1. This is not player 1. Yeah, we can't fire this here. We need it after player 2 or not player 1. Order of operations, guys. Order of operations. Now we won't get that message. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so likely you'll want to do a sequence. That's probably something else. That way you know you've done all of this before. So just to keep this the way that I need it to be, order of operations, fanatic. We'll do this step first. After we're done with that step, then we'll call set up camera, because that's technically the clean way. Like, you know, without beyond a shadow of a doubt, the order is the way you want it to be. All right. So now, OCD aside, you guys have learned a little bit about event dispatchers and how they work, and also order of operations for the engine, you know, and making sure that references will be valid based on that, avoiding race conditions. So when we init, we set the view target with blend to player controller 0, which is the local player index. You know, because this isn't networked and we're going to be sharing a camera, that's fine. It's just going to basically set what we call the perspective, or this thing, right? The view target for the screen. And then what we're doing is we're getting all the actors of class, and here again, because the third person character is the base class and the child is a member of that class, it will return both of them. And then we're turning on tick because we don't want this thing ticking before this point in time. So we've disabled tick here in the settings. Once you have both players, you can get a reference to both of them, and then you can calculate the distance between each one of these, and then you can do some math and create a clamp and control that spring arm length. So that's basically, in a nutshell, all we're doing at this moment, right? So that's how we're getting the zoom in and out over the characters in this way. The other thing is we've manually placed the camera manager in the map. You technically could, in the tick function, get the distance between the two actors with alert function. So you technically, like, let's you know what, we ain't got to do that. We can do this. We can get actor location. We can do the same thing here. Get actor location. And then we can do like a lerp vector. And then we can do 0.5. And then we can update our basically like set actor location of self to this position. And we don't want to sweep because we don't want to bump stuff along the way, and we don't want to teleport because we don't want it to be instant. So if I use this logic and then I move, you can see the camera, not only does it zoom out, now it finds a position. I'm going to turn my controller on. Now it finds a position between the two. So as we move away from each other, we'll get that zoom function, but I'm not like pulling the camera with all my power, all my might away from the other player. It's linear interpolating between those two positions. So the other thing I want to make note about, the player controller has this camera function. Player controller, the character parent class, has a camera function, camera input. We need to unwire this, because if you allow them to control their camera with the mouse or the controller, they'll rotate their X forward position and throw the movement off. So as you can see, the world position of everything here is based on X and Y being on the left and right. So I was upside down, by the way. So if we're looking at it from this standpoint, the world position is X forward, Y is to the right, Z is straight up and down. So that is basically the same way that movement input vector works. Up is going to be up, down is down, right is right, left is left, and if you don't allow rotation to be shoved into the character, that will remain that way. As you rotate things around, if you get off of that world coordinate system, you're going to have to adjust the forward vector of each character to align. So just be aware of that. The other thing is that the camera doesn't have to stay like this. As long as you're not rotating it, you can always go grab that boom arm or spring arm, if I can actually talk today. And you can always like give it an angle that you would prefer to play at. This is upside down again. I don't know why, but yeah. So you can kind of tilt it a little bit, and you can get this angle in that you want, and then you still have your zoom behavior, and you still have that kind of follow behavior as the characters walk left and right. Anyway, hit that like and subscribe button. I want to say thank you to all my patrons and Wild Ox Studios Discord members, and people like you who stop by, watch a previous tutorial, and are like, hey, this is amazing, thank you so much for this, but how would I do something similar if I didn't want the split screen behavior? So I have a, not to plug a product, but I have a marketplace product called Couch Co-op Local Multiplayer Template on the Epic Store. I'll put a link to that in the description, as well as my Patreon and my Discord. But yeah, it's I think it's less than $10 the last, I'm pretty sure. I don't really price things that expensive, but if you want to support me, you can become a patron, or you can go grab that template, which has this and a lot more. It has AI, it has trampolines, it has jump mechanics, it has Y-lock, it has over the top like this, it has Y limited, so you have like a limited amount you can move up and down, but you know, it's basically a platformer style setup game, shared screen setup game. And then I've got a crap ton of tutorials about how to change the classes to vehicles, change it to split screen, swap out the meshes. Yeah. So until next time, guys, happy developing and toodles.